The Empire searches for its missing prisoners. Omega hustles for credits. A powerful reunion occurs, and more as the Sky Guys are back to recap the latest episode of The Bad Batch.
Hello there, welcome back to the Sky Guys podcast. We are back here for another episode of The Bad Batch. We are taking a different approach to the podcast cover this week. I'm one of your hosts, Mike Phillips. Joining me today, as always, first up, man's voice of the narration every single week. Pete Consadori is here. Pete, how are you?
Doing well. Excited to talk about Bad Batch. I'm excited to be talking with you guys every week about it. So I'm interested to see what you thought about this episode.
Also with us today, the reigning Sabak champion of the podcast, Nick Fraietta is here. Nick, how are you?
Doing well. Very excited. We finally have a one episode thing, so that's exciting. Just to go in, have a short little episode, have a short little podcast.
Yeah, we'll have some fun here as we go here. And Pete, if you want to subscribe us on the podcast, they can do so Apple Podcasts, Google Play, TuneIn, Spotify, Amazon, all the usual suspects. Simply search for the Sky Guys podcast here, podcast platform, fun episodes there, and you have a fun year on the Sky Guys. Make sure you're subscribed.
Yeah, absolutely. If you're not subscribed, you're missing out on stuff, and it's free. You don't have to pay anything for it. So you might as well be there, be in the subscription, and get all that exclusive content.
Yep, and Nick, if you want to follow us on social media, how can you do that?
You can follow at Sky Guys Podcast on Instagram, Twitter, Threads, and TikTok. We throw a lot of nice reels up on all of those platforms.
Yep, you can also follow the YouTube version. Mike Phillips on YouTube. We have the graphics up here. We have all our props here, and once again, somebody who's an MVP consideration for the week, I would say here. Lego Omega is here.
An interesting week for Omega, to say the least.
Yep. Let's get to some Star Wars. We're still working through our backlog here, and Nick, we have some stuff to go through.
Yep. So Mandalorian and Grogu, that's the movie that was announced. It's set to go into production in California, and there's conflicting reports on whether Pedro Pascal will actually be on set. I think that's not a surprise that there's conflicting reports on that, considering we didn't even technically have him in Mando season 3. So we'll see.
Yeah, before you move on real quick, I'll make a point out here that there's a lot of Hollywood clickbait going on right now, Pete, where it's like, oh, Pedro Pascal might not be there, whereas they don't really do a good job explaining that he was not there in season 3. There's going to be probably Brendan Wayne with Teeth Crowder in the suit, and he'll just do voiceover and maybe show up for one day and do a helmetless scene.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely a possibility. They've done it before. They could do it again. It'll work fine.
Yep.
Next is Stellan Skarsgård. Did I pronounce that right?
Yep.
Says that Andor season 2 is either going to come late this year or early next. I can't see it coming late this year, especially if that report that we heard about the Acolyte is true. Then it would be like starting right when it ends. I guess it's possible, but I just don't see that.
It depends when they throw Skeleton Crew in there also. I think it's more likely early 2025.
Up next is The Phantom Menace is going to be re-released from May 4th. The weekend. This is the 25th anniversary of The Phantom Menace, or it will be in May.
Yeah, it's very exciting.
Yeah, the next one is a little piece of comedy. Donald Glover says he wanted to make the Lando movie because he likes the characters, wanted creative control, and his kids like Star Wars. I just find it hilarious that we're still considering this movie even a possibility of even getting close to being made. So that's, I guess, Donald Glover's little fantasy. Disney is releasing a Asajj Ventress limited edition legacy lightsaber set, which means I probably have to add a new lightsaber to my collection.
So you want the Asajj Ventress hilts?
I think so. The problem is that when they release these people that have two, the price is usually close to double.
Yeah.
And it's like, it's tough to really justify that.
Yeah, it certainly is.
The Bad Batch executive producer Brad Rao says that Ventress may pop up in more Star Wars stories after the Bad Batch. Some more Ventress news there.
Yep.
So we'll see what happens. I guess that means she lives through the show. Doesn't necessarily mean that, but I guess that's what it means. But we'll see when we finally do meet her this season. And the last piece of news is last week we talked about a Respawn Entertainment Star Wars Mandalorian game, first person game. It's already been canceled. So unbelievable. This is why I wait till everything is tweeted by the Star Wars Twitter account before I even say it's real. But Yeah, this isn't happening already. So I guess it was around in our minds for a total of what, 10 days?
Yeah, and Pete, there was the big buzz like, oh, this could be a Mandalorian themed first person shooter, and nope, gone.
Yeah, that was too quick. Yeah, who knows? Probably was just a rumor just to get the hype around Mando even more. It'd be cool to get a Mando first person game though, eventually, if it ever happens.
Yeah, is that it for the news this week, Nick?
It is, and it's back to the game though. Like for me, I wasn't excited about it, so I'm actually happy it's gone. Personally, it's just a personal thing. I know many people disagree with this, but I can't play a first person game. The game's first person, I'm basically out.
Yeah.
Unless it's a shooter, maybe, I get the like Call of Duty, whatever, but like if it's a first person game and if you're I can't even play.
I think they
So
said this was a first person shooter, allegedly.
yeah, I know, but like either way, I'm probably out on a first person game. It's very rare that I'm going to be playing one.
Yeah, although I will also add here in the good news department here in the video game front, EA in that same report did confirm that Jedi Survivor is getting a sequel, so the trilogy is being completed.
That is great news. That is not a first person game.
It's very open world.
That's why I like it, third person.
Yep.
But that's great news. So I can't wait to see the ending of that story. You know how I was very happy with the ending of number two.
Yep. Let's go into the episode here. A different approach here. We get more Omega and Crosshair trying to go through the next after they escape here. So what do you guys think about this episode?
I mean, I thought it was good. I don't think it was anything groundbreaking. We'll talk about what happens in the episode, but I think everything kind of happens pretty quickly. Only in episode 4. What are we about a third of the way through?
Yeah, although I feel like last season this was the same plot. We had this happen to like episode 7.
Right. So, yeah, not bad, but nothing groundbreaking.
Nick, I don't. We were talking off the air. They said the internet loves this episode.
Yeah, all the comments I saw on Instagram were like, "Oh my God, I was crying." I was like, maybe. I mean, I wasn't, but maybe. It was good though. I enjoyed it a lot, and I'm really happy the story's progressed as far as it has in just 4 episodes, and in really just 2 weeks in our time.
Yeah.
Really happy that the story's progressed this far, and we got, I believe this, what is this, a 15 season episode?
Yeah,
15 episode season?
Yep, third of the way through already.
So we're only at 4 out of 15, and we already have them back together. So that's great. We have 12 more episodes,
Well, mostly together. We still haven't. Echo still has not shown up in the season yet.
or I guess 11 more episodes. But yeah, but the fact that we got Omega back with the crew is huge to me. So I'm very excited for that.
Yeah, and Crosshair back with the crew for the first time since season 1.
Yes, yes. He doesn't seem like he's 100% in with clones yet, but we know he's against the Empire.
Yep. So a little about the here before we go into the episode itself, here PL sales. So they've been doing a good job on the cliffhangers this season. Like this one is the first time really in a bad episode in a while. I've said, oh, I want to hit next to see what happens next.
I mean, I kind of agree with you and I kind of disagree with you. I think it's a great ending to the episode, and I think it kind of wraps up the first part of the season nicely. But I'm excited to see what's next, but I'm not like at the edge of my seat. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, well, yeah, it's just our different opinion of the episode. Let's get into what happened here. We'll kind of go through this pretty quick stuff here. So Omega and Crossing are crashing their ship on a planet. We find later on it's Lao. They disagree in the next course of action. Omega basically says, hey, keep the computer on, try to find the coordinates to go back to Tannis and rescue all the clones that are still trapped there. Crosshair says, hey, kid, we're lucky we got out. Let's get out of here. So interesting little setup here for a big disagreement in terms of the approach to the episode for Omega and Crosshair, Nick.
I guess that's why they called it a different approach, huh?
Yep.
Also, did you guys notice that maybe I missed something? Like they were being tracked, right?
I think the ship was being tracked. Remember, they stole
Why
it.
didn't they just go in hyperspace?
The ship was damaged.
We can track through hyperspace now. Is that it?
Well, I think they ended up getting that was the ship that was damaged. I remember at the beginning.
Okay, so there was no hyperspace. Then it makes sense.
Yeah, I think they were in hyperspace because they literally were just trying to get away as fast as they could.
Yeah, but simply Omega wants to go back and help everybody. Crosshair doesn't. That's what I'm taking away from the first 8 minutes of this episode.
Yeah, I think that's about accurate here. And Pete, we also get an interesting spot here where we get the only shot on Tan's episode. We get this conversation where Hemlock goes and talks to Nalase in the cell, and he basically is very mad, saying like, "Hey, like, very curious that now Omega's sample proved to be right after all the ones you tested." And she's like, flukes happen. And he's like, "Well, we're gonna get her back. We're gonna find out here." So very clearly, like he's figured out that she's been dumping the sample. He's not happy.
Yeah, I mean, he's obviously a smart dude. He's a great character in the show, and I think that obviously Nala's gonna not out Omega. So it's pretty standard conversation between the two. I feel like this is a very stereotypical kind of cat and mouse game with a prisoner and someone trying to fight. I feel like this is done before, but it's still good. It's still good. It's still quality, and I like the dynamic that's going on between the two of them right now.
Yeah, Nick, I do think obviously I give me as much Hemlock as we can because I think he's the best villain the show has created, and like we got very little of him in this episode, but what we got was very fun.
Yep. It's he's always one step ahead. Like he figures it out very quickly what's going on, and that's just signs of a good character, signs of a good villain, and very excited to see him probably die, to be honest with you, but very excited to see his ending.
Yeah, excited to see his ending too here, and then we find out that Omega, Crosshair, and Batcher are going to try and get off the world as fast as they can. So their idea is we're going to go find a ship here and get on. Crosshair says, "Hey, let me just shoot everything and we'll just shoot our way onto the ship." Omega says, "No, no, no, I got this." So she goes up to the officer and is like, "Hey, a little bit of this, we'll get on the ship." And he's like, "Okay, 15,000 credits." Omega's shocked, like, "Wait, what? For two tickets?" Like, "No, each." And Pete, this was hilarious because I thought it was so funny. Omega was trying to pull off a bribe with no money.
I mean, you gotta give her credit. I also don't know what she expected the bribe would be. I mean, it's gonna cost them a lot of money if they're gonna do things, under the table, if you will. So it was definitely cool to see Omega kind of trying to take leadership here a little bit. And we kind of see that theme throughout the episode as well.
Nick, I don't know why this cracked me up so much though, because like seeing her figuring out like, oh wait, I need money to actually pull off this bribe. It's not gonna be as cheap as I thought it was gonna be.
It's like she had the right idea, but she didn't think it all the way through.
Yeah.
And yeah, like Pete said though, like let's say the ticket's usually 5,000. If you're gonna bribe someone, it's probably gonna be 10,000. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Otherwise, why would the person do it if they're not gonna make anything off of it?
Yeah. Plus the whole idea was that either her or Crosshair had chain codes. So basically saying, hey, do something shady with the paperwork. Like let us slip by without the chain codes. If I get myself fired, I need money to make this work worth my while.
Well, that didn't work.
Yeah. Yeah, but fortunately, Pete, we found that Omega is becoming a very skilled sabacc player from her time like hanging out in Sid's casino here, and like she's hustling people for money.
I mean, not to be that guy, but was that Sabak?
It was.
That did not look like Sabak to me,
It looks like the animated version.
the animated version.
Yeah.
So, okay.
I mean, I played
Interesting.
it on Knights of the Old Republic. They let you play as one of the mini games.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I only know Sabak from the card game you can buy from the Outpost over in Disney and also what we see in like Solo and stuff. So it looked a little different to me. I saw the numbers, so I thought it was something similar, but I don't know if it was Sabak. But anyway, yeah, I mean, like, good for her. I mean, that she's really pulling out all these like skills that like we didn't know she had. Like, where did this come from? Was she playing Sabak in the while she was captive? Kind of want to know where she got these skills from. They just didn't like come out of thin air here.
Nick, I think a lot of this comes back when she was hanging out with Sid. She probably picked it up as like playing against these two drunk guys who were in her bar all the time.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah,
That's definitely it. It's season one.
yeah, and two for a little bit.
Yep.
I also will point out here that I do think it's fun when the Imperial Captain and spot on name here is Captain Man is the guy's name, and he shows up and he basically plays a game with her. She loses his, and then he says, "Hey, you got to pay up if you don't want me to catch you for gambling illegally." So I remember, Pete, the Empire always wins. The House always wins.
House always wins. I mean, I knew something was a little bit fishy when when he was just so like, yeah, you beat me fair and square. Here's your money. No problem. Good job. The Empire is never really that nice to the locals. So I knew something was up from there. I knew there was something up his sleeve.
Yeah. Yeah. At this point, Nick, they have, I believe, 35,000 credits and need 30 to bribe the officials. So they have a little surplus. So when they get hit up by this kid merchant outside who's like trying to basically figure out what happened to Batcher, who man threw out and ends up taking after they leave. So I think it's funny how like the kid's like 10,000 credits and Crosshair basically says like, I'll kick your ass if we don't, if you give me too much. Like, okay, fine, 5,000.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, and they end up with just enough, huh?
Yep. Very convenient.
Yeah. Well, I guess that's why he said, I'm not going to pay that much because he knew how much money they needed. That's why he asked Omega, how much do we have? When they
Yeah.
left.
Yeah. So
Uh, but yeah, that was pretty funny.
yeah, it was funny. They get the information about where the Batcher is. Crosshair says it's not worth it. It's a hound. We gotta move on. Omega says, I'm going after him. Like you can go find your way to the ship or but I'm going on here. And Pete, noble character moment for Crosshair here, where he says, you know what, like I'm not gonna abandon the kid. I'll go after her. Where I feel like it maybe in season 1 or early season 2, he said, okay, you do your thing, I'll do my thing.
Yeah, I mean, not to say Crosshair maybe thinks he needs her, but she's kind of spearheaded a lot of what's going on, right? I mean, Crosshair hasn't really done anything except for be the brute force.
Yeah.
Omega's been kind of doing the plan. So maybe he kind of recognized like, hey, as much as I want to do it my way, which is referenced a little bit later, maybe I got to follow Omega here. Maybe I kind of need her as well. So yeah, pretty cool on Crosshair to have a little bit of change here. We obviously know him as a villain in this show. Um, but could be a little bit of reliance too, a little reliability that he needs Omega in some capacity.
Yeah, Nick, it's the first time I've really seen these characters together because obviously Crosshair dips before Omega really joins the team in season 1. So seeing Crosshair be the dad and sort of like go after her was actually interesting.
It was very, sorry, it was very interesting. The two of them together, like you said, it's an interesting dynamic that we've never seen before, and they kind of fit well together.
Yes.
And she's more like they're pretty much polar opposites, and that's why they work. In that she's more caring and he's more, I don't know, is selfish the right word?
It's like he's more like this is why the world sucks, kid.
Yeah, like what's
Real.
the opposite? Pessimistic, I guess.
He's glass half empty, she's glass half full.
Exactly.
Yeah. All right, so that's going on here. They do get to the base here, and I do think it's funny here where Omega's first like, let's free all the animals, and Crosshair's like, kid, chill. We're getting your dog. We're not getting every dog out of here. And then it ends up being a situation here where she tries to talk her way out of it with man. It doesn't work. And then she says, okay, do it your way. And Crosshair starts shooting, let the animals out. They have this big, massive melee. And Pete, does man get eaten by like some like tentacle creature at the end of this episode?
Uh, I gotta be honest, I don't remember. I just watched it too. I must have like turned away or looked at my phone or something. So, Nick, can we confirm?
I mean, he definitely got taken by one. I don't know if he died.
I think it was from the way it sounded, it looks like he was dying, or at least getting eaten slowly by this creature.
I would say so. What was the guy's name?
Man, like Colonel Man.
Ridiculous name.
Yeah, very on the nose.
Yeah. But yeah, I definitely saw him get taken by the tentacles or whatever that may have been, and I'm assuming he died, but they didn't like show it, like so we don't know what yeah, exactly if he's dead.
Yeah, well, according to the Wikipedia, they listed death as a theme of the episode. So I'm assuming he actually died.
Okay.
All right, so that's going on here. Then we see they escape. They grab this. They steal a shuttle. They fly away. In the midst of all the chaos here, we find out
So
basically.
so hold on, Mike, real quick. They steal the shuttle, right?
So the cargo shuttle, yes,
That means they still have the money.
yeah, they got the money.
So we still have the money, and we're off the world.
Yep, and we have Thatcher with us.
That's who I learned is a girl.
I guess so.
That's what they said. She said girl at one point of the episode.
Yeah,
I didn't know that.
yeah. So they get off world with their money and Thatcher, and Omega sends a transmission to like a secret code out to the Bad Batch, who earlier Like Crosshair said, we can't send it from our ship because the Empire will track it. They do it from this ship. They send a secret code out. Their Union comes here. It's nice to see, Pete, that the Wrecker moment where Wrecker is the first one who sees Omega and gets so excited.
Yeah, I mean, the whole tracking the message thing is a little bit odd to me because isn't the Empire going to report that that particular shuttle was stolen?
Well, don't
And
forget
if something's
the captain was eaten, so it might be a little bit delay in processing.
yeah, maybe. I mean, there's no one left to report it. I don't know. I just always thought that like maybe that's going to get reported, and they're going to say, "Oh, we got a transmission from the stolen thing. It's coming from here." Um, but yes, but we get that reunion. It's very nice. It wasn't expected. I got to be honest with you. I didn't think we were going to get this reunion this early in the season. I thought we were going to take at least half the season with them not together, and then the reunion would come pretty much toward the midway to 3/4 way of the season, and that's kind of how we were going to get that ending. So I'm very interested to see kind of how they move forward. That's not like the very end of the episode, obviously, but I was very surprised to see this happen so quickly.
Nick, what did you go with the timing of this? Because I feel like this was last season or season one. We're talking repeat is at the mid-season mark. We get this reunion. Here we get it very early.
I'm surprised, but in a good way.
Yes.
I'm happy about it, but I didn't expect it. I thought we would like do this, like Pete said, episode 7, episode 6, maybe. And the fact that we did it in episode 4 just means buckle in. We got a great second and third of the season coming our way.
Yeah, we're a quarter of the way through, I believe, is the correct is what I have it as. So
Well, we got 4 out of 15. So however you want to do that math. We're basically a third, a quarter, right in the middle. We're
yep,
like 30% done with the season. So
yep, we're about 30% way through, and then we get the final shot here where Hunter says, like, how'd you do it by yourselves? Like, I had help. We get the great last shot, Pete, of just Crosshair looking back at them and then like start looking back at him, not knowing like what to make of the situation. And we just go to credits. I think it was a good way to end the episode.
Yeah, it leaves a lot up to question, right? We don't know how Wrecker and Hunter are going to take him in, if you will. I put that in air quotes. If they're going to accept him or they're going to say, "You're on your own, buddy." We've been dealing with you for however long. Or they may just welcome with open arms and say, like, "Look, anything against the Empire we'll take, right? Because we need to protect Omega." So it's a great way to end it. Like you had mentioned, edge of your seat, maybe not so much for me, but it still gets me intrigued about what's to come. But yeah, it was a great reunion episode.
Yeah, Nick, I think the thing with Crosshair is fascinating here because obviously the first time they've really seen him, and remember at the end of season 2 that we're going to go and try and find him when he sends the distress signal out. So interesting to see like how many hard feelings there are considering how much time has passed.
yeah, I mean, I don't have an answer for you. We'll have to wait and see. I'm very excited for it as well.
Yeah, but that's where we're going to leave the episode here. Let's get to the things we track every single week on the podcast here. So we have 3 to update us on here. So Nick, Lao is our 4th planet of the season. So we have 4 planets so far.
We're at an over under of 9.5. If anyone wants to get in on the gambling market, they can reach out on Instagram and we'll place those bets for you on the Sky Guy Sportsbook.
Yep, Sky Guys Sportsbook taking your bets right now here. Pete, Scorch up again according to the Wikipedia here. So that's 8 name clones so far this season.
All right. I mean, we're 4 episodes in. We got an average of 2 per episode, so that's pretty good.
Yep, and last but not least, Nick, I'm taking Wikipedia on their word here. We're gonna make it 3 name character deaths because I'm assuming man gets eaten here. So 3 characters have died.
All right, that's pretty cool.
Yeah, and that includes our droid friend from last week twice. So he had a very rough week. Now we'll go ahead to our MVP, LVP board. These are the best and worst characters rated by us every single week here. We're keeping track of season 3 right now. So here's the board at the moment. Dr. Hemlock on top with +3. Nala Saying Omega at +2. Emery Carr, Kevin Kiner from Nick, and Crosshair +1. Then -4s, the Stormtroopers, and K9X1, the droid who got himself killed by Omega twice last week. So that's our board heading through the first 3 episodes here. So we'll go to the MVP section first. We'll stay positive here. Nick, who's the MVP of the week?
I'm giving it to Omega. She had a very strong episode, showing off her excellent Savak skills. She Had a clear plan. She was able to get Crosshair to follow her reluctantly, even if reluctantly able to follow her, and she really led the episode, and it was a strong episode for her.
Yeah, I'll give the other half of the team here a point. I'll give it to Crosshair for having the maturity to realize, like she's onto something. Like it's not just about me. It can be a little more selfless. He goes, helps her get the beast back, get Batcher back, and then fights without him shooting his way through the base. They're not getting off that planet alive. I'll give Crosshair the MVP point. So Pete, you're up.
I'm giving it to Omega. Pretty much like Nick said, not to be boring here, but she really comes to her own. She's a leader in this episode. She is a leader at the end of the last episode, last story arc. I feel like there's more to come for Omega, and I think that we're starting to see that this character is not that kid anymore. She's actually growing up and trying to make decisions and do what's right. And it's interesting to see that character growth. So MVP to Omega.
Yeah, I had the board labeled wrong here. Crosshair's a -1 on the board. Should have been instead of a +1. So he's at 0 right now as a result of these points. Omega's our new leader right now, Nick.
Maybe
Now,
not. Maybe not for long.
yeah, for long. Now we go the other way, the LVP section here. And I'm gonna give this one. This is something I'm gonna steal from Kenobi here. We're giving it to Imperial Security this week because you have this base where you have like one clone and a child, and they manage to free all of your beasts, steal a shuttle, and get your commanding officer killed. That's a terrible job with all those clones and stormtroopers. So I'm giving the Imperial Security the LVP. Pete, you're up.
Um, in the interest of not really knowing who to give it to, I'll agree with you, Mike. When I think about the episode, there's really no characters that I'm like, wow, this guy really sucks, or this character was really just terrible, or did the wrong thing and screwed everyone over. So I'll give it to what'd you call it, Imperial Security?
Yeah.
I'll say Stormtroopers, I guess, because it's just something that we had on the board, I think, as well, just to keep it all together.
Nick, what about you?
For the second time in the history of this podcast, I'll be doing something, and that's I'll be giving it to Omega, who is also my MVP. I just can't let her get away with the bribe thing.
Yeah, that was bad.
Can't let her get away with it. It was so silly. And I don't really think there were like the only other answer I possibly would have had is the officer man, only
Yeah,
because he was kind of a douche. He didn't
yeah,
actually do anything wrong. So like, and I hate giving the episodes to like the LVPs, MVPs to a guy like that because we're gonna look back at this in May and go, "Who the hell was that?" I don't
yeah.
even remember. So to me, Omega was the best character in this episode, and ironically, also the worst.
Yeah, I thought about getting Omega the LV for the bribe thing, but then I said, you know what, Imperial Security had such an advantage here, and they screwed it up, so I'm gonna give it to them.
So for the second time, I don't remember when I did the first time, but I did it another time when we were discussing this. I gave the MVP and LVP to the same person, but I can't. I think it was in Ahsoka actually.
Yeah,
I can't remember.
yeah, I think it would. I want to say it was. I was there. Was it might have been an Andor situation?
It seems more recent, but maybe you're right.
Oh no, wait, no, wait, it was last. It was in Bad Batch. You gave Tech an MVP and LVP in the same episode.
Oh,
Yeah, so that's what's going on here. I relabeled Stormtroopers Imperial Security for the board here. So they're -6 now for the season.
Sound good?
Ooh.
All right. So next up here, grades on a scale of 1 to 10. 1 is worse than 1978 holiday special. 10 is up there with the Prison Break of Andor as terms of the best episode of Star Wars content we've gotten here. So Pete, your grade.
I'm giving it a 7. It's not an average episode. It's good. It pushes the story along. We get a great reunion, but it still had that kind of feel of like a Sid mission episode or just like a filler episode a little bit. I feel like the meat and potatoes of the episode, there wasn't like a ton going on. The ending was really the push for the story to move forward. So not like average, definitely above average. So I'll give it a 7.
Nick.
I'm also going to give it a 7. I agree. It felt like a Sid mission episode, and you know what? If this is the Sid mission episode, I'm pumped the rest of the season because if this is your filler, the non-fillers, it's going to be awesome because this was a pretty good episode. So I'm really excited.
Yeah, I give it a Quincy on the sevens here. As you mentioned here, like this is filler. This is good filler. Like this is not like us like doing death racing or treasure hunting last year. This moved the story forward, had some character development here. Plus, I was just laughing at the absurdity of Omega's attempts to bribe the officials and in fact she's a Sabak like expert. So that was funny.
I thought it would have been a cool dynamic if maybe like Crosshair was sitting behind her opponent, like giving her like what to do and stuff.
Oh, he's card counting.
I thought they would do something like that. I'm surprised that they didn't. Just made Omega stronger, and it made Omega stronger by not doing that, in my opinion. So I'm happy they didn't.
That would
Actually,
have been more of a tech function, be the card counter.
true.
Yeah. And speaking of here, we're going to prediction for next week. Episode 5 is entitled The Return. So Nick, what do you think happens next week?
I have 3 words, and that's it.
Yep.
Rex comes back. That's it.
So Rex is the return, you're saying.
I think so. Whether he's with Tech, I don't know, but I think we're for sure getting Rex.
You mean Echo?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, but
Oh no, I mean Tech.
you
I know he's gonna be with Echo. I mean like whether or not we actually see Tech come back, I don't know. But see, this is why I don't like the two of them because they're the same character.
yeah.
Rex is gonna be with Echo, and whether or not Tech comes back remains to be seen.
Yeah, and obviously, this is also something I'll mention here, Pete. We have not seen Echo in 4 episodes of the season.
Yeah. So I mean, it's a possibility.
All right, so I'm gonna say here from my because the Crosshair Union is testy, but they take him back. I think the return, though, I think I'm gonna go on the Nick train here. I'm gonna say that we get confirmation that Tech is alive at the end of the episode, and I have a reason for that is because Nick, remember what episode 6 and 7 were the titles?
Infiltration and something like that, right?
Extraction.
So if they find out he's alive, he's being used for whatever, they got to go in and get him.
Yeah, I think that's the two parts. Them getting Tech back.
What if Rex comes back and says, "Hey guys, I lost Echo." And it's the same thing about Echo.
Yeah, I think it's a Tech thing. I think we got the shot of that mysterious soldier in the first like 3 episodes. You kind of dropped him in there. I think we're gonna get confirmation at the end of the episode that's Tech.
All right.
Pete, your prediction.
I think pretty much what you said, Mike, about Crosshair's reunion. I think that's pretty spot on. They're going to kind of reluctantly take him back, and it's going to be rocky. But I think the return is a return of a character that did not appear in the show yet. I think that Hemlock goes and hires Asajj Ventress to try to find Omega, and we get Asajj Ventress pretty much throughout the rest of the season trying to find Omega. And I think that's the return we're seeing, not a return of a character that we've already met or already know from this show.
I think he's right.
Yeah, so this is fun.
I didn't think about that. I think he's right.
We got 3 different returns here because like you have Rex, I have Tech, and Pete has Ventress.
Yeah, you can put in parentheses next to mine. Nick thinks Pete is right.
Don't put much stock in my stuff because I usually lose like the character drafts and stuff like that. But it'd be pretty cool.
I just forgot about her. I just forgot about her, and I think you're right.
I think it's too early for Ventress, personally.
Listen, we thought it might have been too early for the reunion of Crosshair and them, so you never know.
Yeah, that's true. So it's a good.
It reminds me of Boba Fett, though. Like in Boba Fett, the 6th episode, we didn't know what it meant till after, but it was called "From the Desert Comes a Stranger," and like now we know that meant Cad Bane.
Yeah,
and when you hear that, when you look at Cad Bane's in the show, and you look at all the titles in the episode, you're like, oh, that's clearly the one he was in. I feel like we know Ventress is in this. We look at the titles of the episodes. I feel like this is clearly the one she's going to be in.
Yeah, well, I think, like I said, I think my text theory still stands. You believe the infiltration extraction titles are reference them going to get someone out because obviously Omega. We saw as the beginning of the season, Nick. We said, "Oh, this is when they're getting Omega out of prison. Here is the infiltration extraction." Now we're going to say, "Oh, they're already out." I guess this is the Tech spot.
Yeah, your theory still holds true.
Yeah, that's my theory based on the title of the next 2 episodes. In fact, it's a 2-parter.
Yeah.
All right, so that's where we're going to leave for this week. We'll be back next week to cover the return. And well, thank you guys for coming on. Your people are following on social media. How can they do that?
At Concy29 on Twitter, or X, whatever the hell it's called, CONSY, and then AP Tyler308 created this background on Reddit, so make sure you give them a follow.
Yep. Nick, one more time. People want to follow social media. How can they do that?
At Sky Guys Podcast. It's on Instagram, Twitter X, Threads, and TikTok.
Yeah, you can also follow me on social media, mphillips331. It's MPHILIPS331. This week over on the Just End the Suffering podcast, we did some hockey talk with Christopher Russo, the host of Sports the Waiting Room podcast. And I know Pete's a big fan of that episode.
Yeah, it's a good one. Little stadium series talk, which I always love. I actually had the opportunity to go to that game and I couldn't, which is a little depressing. But yeah,
I
always
actively
love always love hearing hockey.
I actively chose not to go to that game. I got the pre-sale already, and I chose not to buy tickets.
How do you actively choose not to go to that?
I hate MetLife Stadium
Okay, well then.
because I refuse to deal with that parking situation unless I have to.
Parking is real shitty over there. It takes about 4 hours to leave. You have to get ready to just stay there and hang out. And I can't say that you're wrong. It's really bad. But
Plus, I did the Winter Classic, so for me that felt like a step down.
sure. Yeah. No, I understand.
All right, so that's it for this week. We'll be back next week with a return on the podcast. But until then, may the force be with you.